It is our great debate next, a universal basic income. Should we implement one in British Columbia? We've got both sides of it next. Do not miss it. That is coming up next. Stick around.
This is the Mike Smyth Show.
All right, it's time for our great debate now on the universal basic income. The idea here, reduce poverty and income inequality, bring in a mandatory minimum income for adults in the country, make it the law, and apply it across Canada. There is a bill in the Canadian Senate to create a national framework for a universal basic income. There's been a private member's bill in the House of Commons, and there is a national campaign to make it all happen. And of course, there's disagreement and division over it. So let's debate it today. We've got both sides of it standing by for you here. We've got two great guests on the line. First, have a listen here now. This is Sir Richard Branson, of course, the British entrepreneur and business leader here. He supports a universal basic income. Here he is describing it to CNN. Have a listen to this.
Basic minimum earnings for everybody, so that there's nobody that is having to sleep on the street.
So guaranteed basic income or universal basic income, you like it?
100% think that's really important.
Well, there are people in this country who call that a nanny state, you know.
Some people will call it that, but I think that it will come about one day, and I think
out of necessity.
Out of necessity.
Okay, as Richard Branson there, he thinks a universal basic income is inevitable. All right, let's discuss it now. I got both sides of it for you. Floyd Marinescu. Floyd is the founder of UBI Works, Universal Basic Income Works. UBIWorks.ca is the website there. Floyd, thanks for coming on.
Hi, thank you.
You bet. Thank you for doing this. And also, Kris Sims is on the line. Kris is the Alberta Director, Canadian Taxpayers Federation. Hi, Kris.
Hi, thanks for having us on.
You bet. Thank you to both of you for doing this. Floyd, let me go to you first. I've been checking out your website here this morning. Tell me the case here for a universal basic income. How would it work?
Ultimately, UBI, or a guaranteed basic income, as is commonly discussed in Canada, is about helping people, giving people a chance to pursue their potential. It's really more of a head start than a hand up. And people in the civil service who've been advocating this for many years, including the former Conservative Senator Hugh Segal, see it as a much better, more efficient replacement to existing social safety systems that actually help far more people than people on welfare would be helped. For example, you have stories from the pilot, Lisa, who was able to take a lower paying job in another field, who would not have been able to take that if it wasn't for the basic income. By the end of the pilot that ran recently, Sam Altman's pilot of 1,000 recipients of basic income was making close to six figures. You have stories of people exiting abusive situations, where Mallory was able to leave an abusive household with her kids because she knew she had the security, at least during the period of the pilot, to leave and actually get a new place and take her kids to a safer place. None of these stories would be possible under the welfare system. It would be as if during CERB, during COVID, if the government said, all right, everyone, just sell your cars, sell your houses, and then apply for social assistance, and then you'll get some help.
How much would it cost?
In Canada, it's typically discussed something around $17,000 to $24,000 a year per individual, with a maybe $23,000 to $27,000 for a family. And this is just enough to be just around or above the poverty line. It's about avoiding people experiencing the worst case scenarios that are due from poverty.
Okay, Kris Sims, what do you say to this idea?
Well, it sounds good from the outset, right? Because the idea is that we can replace all other social safety nets. So the welfare system, the EI system, student loan system, every other time the government gives another person money. Now, of course, we need to stress this is all taxpayers' money. The government is not creating wealth, right? They're not generating wealth under Parliament Hill. It is not their money to give. It's taxpayers' money. Milton Friedman floated an idea like this. Some people often refer to it as a negative income tax, basically creating a floor so that nobody can drop below it. But the key there was that every other form of social safety net had to be eliminated in order for this to even get off the ground. And even then, he still had it theoretical. So our two big concerns with this here is, one, the cost. And we don't mean how much it will, how much will it cost, meaning per person, like how much you get. How much will this cost taxpayers? And the studies that we've seen is actually saying something like more than a 50% tax rate. like we're already close to that when we combine all other forms of taxation between municipal, provincial, and federal government. A lot of hardworking taxpayers are tapped out. We just don't have the cash for this. Like, keep in mind, we're already 1.2 trillion with a T dollars in debt. So we just don't see where the cash is coming from here. And just very recently, I saw an interesting piece by the former CFIB lady there, Catherine Smyth. I don't know if you saw it, Mike, where they did a pilot project in the States. And they said that it lasted a few years and they gave lower income families $1,000 extra per month. And it didn't, unfortunately, result in better employment, better education, or better health outcomes.
Okay, Floyd, back to Floyd Marinescu from UBI Works. Floyd, Kris says we can't afford it. Would you have to jack up taxes to pay for this?
Well, that's a very typical approach that opponents take to it, with all due respect. Talking about what an actual universal basic income where everyone gets the same amount would cost. And frankly, no one in Canada is discussing that. The Senate bill is not discussing that. No one is seriously discussing that in Canada. They're discussing a guaranteed basic income that targets those in need and is a much more efficient and less bureaucratic approach to giving help where it's needed. Where it's been costed, an article in National Post said that it could cost as low as $24 billion if you'd achieve much of the replacements of similar cash transfer programs. We're not advocating for eliminating social workers, but a dollar is a dollar, no matter if it comes from one basic income or from like 300 different programs. We can minimize the complexity of government and give people the help they need. So a net cost as high as $51 billion I've seen for the basic income that was trialed in Ontario. As low as $24 billion if you achieve greater replacement of other programs, but projected another $86 billion potential in downstream cost savings from less impact on the health system, less impact on crime. And to Kris's point, a recent study did show not a big change in health, but it did show people had more time to better their health. People actually are able to go to the doctor, go to the dentist, take time off to take their kids to the doctor. Some of those health benefits you won't see in a time-limited program. You have to wait and see it later.
Okay, Kris, what do you say to that?
From what I can tell from this study, if we're talking about the same one, it's the U.S. National Bureau of Economic Research, and they did this trial in 2 states, Texas and Illinois, and it looks like they lasted 2 years. So this wasn't like something they tried for 6 months. And our concern here, it often goes back to what the brilliant economist Dr. Thomas Sowell asks. He always asks 3 questions when these kind of grand ideas are proposed. And I mean that earnestly, because it does sound grand. This would be great if it would work. But he always says that we should ask ourselves 3 questions. At what cost, compared to what, and what hard data do we have? And I don't hear a lot of great answers on this that it would actually work. It sounds like it would cost a lot of money, and we're not sure if it would work because all these different little trials that you hear about, we don't see great outcomes. Okay. But I really want to clarify here. Would this replace, are you suggesting, sir, that this would replace all other spending on things like, well, what we would typically call welfare or employment insurance, that sort of stuff?
Floyd.
There's no reason you should have 50 programs, each giving $1, when one program can give $1. But you do need certain kind of social supports. You do need social workers. You do need in-kind services for people who are in certain situations in their life. We are proposing that a basic income could replace many other cash transfer programs that are simply cash. And the overhead of a cash transfer program, it's minimal. It's less than 2%. We have seen not only looking at the costs, look at the benefits. A study by the Canadian Centre of Economics Analysis, showed that it would grow the economy by more than it cost. It could add over 500,000 new jobs to the economy in the medium term because of the increased spending from the people being better able to participate in the economy.
Okay. Let me jump in there, Kris. I know you want to respond to that, but let's fit the break in here as we must do, and then we will come back with more. So it's our universal basic income debate here today. We've got both sides of it for you. Floyd Marinescu. Floyd is the founder of Universal Basic Income Works, UBIWorks.ca. Kris Sims, Canadian Taxpayers Federation, and your calls on the open line. So call me on this one now if you have a comment or question. A universal basic income. Okay, so reduce poverty, income inequality, bring it in across Canada. What do you think about this now? There is a bill in front of the Canadian Senate on this. Call me on it. Tell me your thoughts on it. 604-280-9898 is the number to call. 604-280-9898. Star 9898, toll free on your cell. Floyd Marinescu, Kris Sims are my guests. This is Mike Smyth, back with your calls.
This is the Mike Smith Show.
Okay, it's our universal basic income debate. We've got both sides of it here for you. Floyd Marinescu, he supports a universal basic income. Kris Sims is opposed to it. Your call. Steve in the West End. Hi, Steve. Go ahead.
Hey, I am absolutely against the idea of a universal income. I would have no trust in the government being efficient in making sure that overall taxes gathered for social services were going to be kept in check if one service was given to the other. So in essence, we had universal income for a little while. It was called CERB. And look what happened there. We had massive inflation, more inflation than we've had in 40 plus years. And you know what? Maybe not everybody needs to have a basic income. I knew people that got the CERB, then they weren't supposed to have the CERB. And they didn't need the CERB. So
okay.
I could go on and on many aspects, but I'll let you deal with that.
Thank you for that call. Floyd, what do you say to that? Like, it is sort of similar to CERB, right? And there were lots of problems with CERB, but your thoughts?
A basic income is basically the opposite of CERB. It's actually more like what the Conservatives wanted to turn CERB into. They wanted to add a clawback to it where you lose a bit of the income slowly as you work so that you keep some of the income so there's no disincentive to work. Because with CERB, you lost it immediately when you got a job. But even so, we didn't see, statistically speaking, we didn't see vast numbers of people denying work. We saw a lot of stories about it. We saw a lot of stories about people getting education, like taking a course, applying for better jobs, which we also have seen in almost every basic income pilot we've ever seen. But really crucially, what we saw with CERB, we also saw with the basic income experiment here in Manitoba, in the 1970s, we saw wages going up because when you help people at the bottom to have a better negotiating position, they can negotiate better wages. And we saw wages at the median go up 6.8% right here in Canada during the 1970s pilot.
Kris Sims, what do you say to that?
I share the caller's concern and the idea of the government trying to make this transition and implement it in a way that saves money and creates smaller government and while improving the lives of these people. I'm just not confident in it. Look at how they bungled the Phoenix pay system. They couldn't even get their own pay software right. So the idea of trusting the government to make this work, it gives me chills. I also just wanted to correct myself. It wasn't a 2-year study. It was a 3-year study that they just finished in Texas. And they still said that it didn't have positive outcomes.
Okay, Bob on Vancouver Island. Hi, Bob. Go ahead.
Look, we're $50 billion in interest payments. That's more than the health transfers. We are so badly in debt. We can't even fix something as basic as health care delivery. This new dental program is another boondoggle. We won't even go into ArriveCan and all this other stuff. Look, in a perfect world, I'd love to have this, but I don't trust government to do this. And the statistics this guy is citing during CERB, as an employer, I can tell you I could not get people to work. You know why they didn't want to work? Government was sending them $2,000, and they were happy to sit at home. So I'm sorry. In the real world, this doesn't work. In the theoretical world, it works perfectly.
Okay, Floyd, what do you say to him?
Yeah, I want to, again, reiterate that with the basic income, you keep it in part when you work. So you get a job, you make more money. That's the whole point.
Kris?
Again, I think what Floyd is proposing here is different than what some of the other more, I would say, to use a term, hardcore supporters of universal basic income goes, or guaranteed income. I'm probably using the wrong term there. If it incentivizes people to work and it saves taxpayers money, meaning we pay less in order to streamline services, is something worth looking at. But again, I've got a lot of caution flags around this thing because, again, the intention sounds great, but the delivery has not been proven yet.
Brent, go ahead, Floyd. Go ahead.
I just want to add to that. Absolutely, we should be responsible with taxpayers' money. There are ways to pay for a guaranteed basic income, which is what is in the Senate, that won't cost working taxpayers, most working people. But, I share your skepticism what government can do. But we all know government's good at writing checks, taxes and writing checks. And you know who I do trust is individual people, millions of people making better decisions, like Tara on the recent pilot we discussed, who was able to leave a bunch of dead-end jobs because she had the security of income and then was able to get a stable job with a Fortune 500 company. We would see millions of examples like that. People better able to improve their lot, which they don't have that kind of security. On unemployment insurance is too short. It's only 6 months. With welfare, you have to lose everything before you can lean on that. So it's basically a non-issue. So this is about helping people pursue their potential. Okay. And I trust the decisions of millions of people more than a few government programs.
Squeeze in one more call here. Brent in Victoria. Hi, Brent. Go ahead.
Hi, good morning, Mike. Basic income, it definitely is going to be a positive thing for everyone across the country. I mean, especially with the less strain on the healthcare system, right? I mean, with keeping people well below the poverty level, and I mean, people can debate of what the poverty level would be, but I mean, $24,000 minimum. I mean, at least it would give people a head up where they have opportunity of actually putting money back into the economy. And I mean, it's definitely a good thing because it's less strain on all the other EI, CPP, GST, tax credits, all these programs. I mean, they could be eliminated in one pool. And all that tax dollars, I mean, is going into helping people.
Thank you, Brent. Thank you, Brent. Hate to cut you off. Up against the clock. We're almost out of time. So, guys, I'm going to give you 20 seconds each to sum up. And, Kris, you can go first. You got 20 seconds here.
To reiterate, we have unmoney right now, largely thanks to the Trudeau government. The Trudeau government has doubled the debt of all other previous prime ministers. So we're just not in a position now. However, if this could save money at the end of the day, it's something at least worth studying.
Floyd, 20 seconds for you.
This is ultimately about a just society, a fair society where people can pursue their potential, where just being poor does not disadvantage you structurally from people who have money. I organize 120 Canadian CEOs who signed a letter endorsing basic income, in part because getting ahead should not only be the privilege of children of the middle class and of wealthy people.
Thank you to both of you for a really good discussion, and thanks for all the calls there. That was Floyd Marinescu, UBI Works.ca, Kris Sims, Canadian Taxpayers. Thanks a lot, guys. Really, really good stuff.